The incinerator, the unstoppable march of the pyroclastic flow. The peak of the mountain does not merely crumble, it disintegrates. In a fraction of a second, the vertical pressure of the erupting vent can no longer support the massive column of ash and rock. Gravity takes hold, and the sky falls. This is the birth of a pyroclastic flow, a chaotic, gravity-driven avalanche of incandescent gas and volcanic matter that behaves like a fluid but carries the weight of a mountain. It does not roll, it surges. To an observer a few miles away, it appears as a silent, billowing curtain of gray velvet. But within that cloud lies a kinetic energy so vast it could level cities in minutes. There is no warning beyond the roar of the mountain, and for those in the path of the surge, the concept of escape is rendered obsolete by the physics of the disaster. The speed is the first factor that defies human instinct. Moving at 700 kilometers per hour, the flow outpaces the fastest racing cars and rivals the cruising speed of a jet airliner. Because the flow is cushioned by a layer of trapped air and superheated gases, friction is nearly eliminated. It glides over the terrain, jumping ridges and flowing through valleys with a terrifying fluidity. It does not stop for forests, rivers, or concrete walls. To the flow, a forest of ancient trees is merely a collection of matchsticks to be snapped and carbonized in an instant. The sheer momentum ensures that once the collapse begins, the destination of the flow is predetermined by the laws of gravity and motion. The temperature within this moving wall of death reaches a staggering 1,000 degrees Celsius. This is not merely heat, it is a state of matter that causes organic tissue to vanish before it can even burn. As the flow enters a town or settlement, the air ahead of it is compressed and heated to the point of spontaneous combustion. Wood, plastic, and fabric ignite before the cloud even touches them. Inside the flow, the concentration of toxic gases, sulfur dioxide, carbon dioxide, and hydrogen chloride, replaces all oxygen. Even if one could survive the heat and the impact, there is nothing to breathe but a searing, poisonous vapor that solidifies in the lungs as it cools. The anatomy of the flow is divided into two deadly layers. The basal surge is a dense, ground-hugging torrent of boulders and heavy debris that acts like a grinding machine, pulverizing everything it touches into fine powder. Above this sits the ash cloud, a turbulent canopy of fine particles that can rise kilometers into the air, spreading the heat and the darkness over a wider area. These two layers work in tandem to ensure total destruction. While the heavy base destroys the foundations of buildings, the hot gas cloud enters through every crack and window, ensuring that no interior space remains a sanctuary. History has recorded the aftermath of such events, but few have witnessed them and lived to tell the tale. When the flow finally loses its momentum and settles, it does not leave behind ruins in the traditional sense. It leaves behind a tomb. The landscape is transformed into a flat, featureless plain of gray ash, still shimmering with heat days after the eruption. Objects that were once cars or houses are encased in a substance that hardens into a rock-like material called tuff. The preservation is chilling. The flow moves so fast and is so hot that it freezes the moment of destruction in time, leaving behind a silent, sterile world where life has been completely erased. The science behind why nothing can stop a pyroclastic flow lies in its density and heat. Water cannot extinguish it. Instead, the water flashes into steam, adding to the explosive energy of the surge. Barriers and seawalls are simply climbed over or smashed through by the sheer mass of the rock. It is a tsunami of fire that ignores the boundaries between land and sea, as some flows are so powerful they can travel across the surface of the ocean for miles, driven by the steam cushion they create beneath themselves. This makes coastal evacuations nearly impossible once the mountain begins its terminal collapse. Under the perspective of deep time, these flows are the sculptors of the Earth's surface. They fill valleys and create new plateaus, recycling the interior of the planet into new landmasses. However, from the perspective of human civilization, they represent the ultimate limit of our control. We can predict earthquakes to a degree, we can track hurricanes, and we can build against floods. But there is no engineering solution for a pyroclastic flow. The only defense is distance. To be near a super eruptive event is to be at the mercy of a process that does not recognize the complexity of human life. As the dust eventually clears and the roar of the mountain fades into a low hiss, the true scale of the silence becomes apparent. The area affected by the flow is no longer part of the living world. It is a monochromatic monument to the power of internal planetary heat. The sun may eventually break through the upper ash clouds, but it shines down on a land where the soil is gone, the water is toxic, and the very air is still thick with the scent of pulverized stone. The pyroclastic flow is not just an eruption. It is the Earth's most violent way of resetting the clock, leaving behind a blank slate where life must begin the slow, agonizing process of reclamation from zero. The terror of the wave is matched only by its beauty from a distance, a majestic, roiling tower of gray and gold that appears almost slow in its massive scale. But that beauty is a mask for a physical force that remains the most lethal atmospheric phenomenon on the planet. It is a reminder that we live on a world that is still cooling, still shifting, and still capable of unleashing a wave of fire that can turn the works of man into dust in the blink of an eye.